So here's an interesting thing that seems to be unfurling across the current period, and I wouldn't necessarily have made a video on this if I didn't feel like I could throw a little bit of a hat in the ring myself. So if you haven't heard, I initially came across this by watching the video over on Second Wind. The dudes that initially were part of The Escapist, they split off to a separate gaming channel called Second Wind. It's awesome. That's where Yahtzee is and the rest of the gang. They did a video on how recently a lot of their YouTube performance hasn't been anywhere near what it usually is. Like, they're noticing this massive drop in views and this complete lack of circulation. And then I saw Red Letter Media did a video saying the exact same thing, thinking that, they were just sat back thinking that it was more organic, that it was something like, people were just maybe done with the channel, or, they weren't that bothered, whatever natural reasons there would be for not checking out a video week to week. But it got me thinking across both those videos that, for whatever it's worth saying this, and some of it will just be, I'm doing this, part of this, just to advertise the fact that, hey, I'm here, I make things every week, please come check out the Just Good Game news show every Friday. There's the Just Good Game news, there's the Just Good Game show, etc., etc. If you like some positive gaming coverage and you'd like that every Friday. So there's a bit of it that makes me want to talk about it. For the sake of the irony of all of this is that because all of myself and all the creators are all talking about the same thing, YouTube's AI and YouTube's algorithm will pick up on that as a worthwhile key term and a worthwhile talking point. And so talking about this, will get me in that ranking to a degree anyway. Watch this video do like 3 views. I don't know. It's worth mentioning because, week to week, and I've been doing the Just Good Game show for about a month and a half now. Like, I launched everything at the very end of July, and episode 5 just went live last week. Funnily enough, though, and I think it's another reason why I think it's worth doing this video, the most recent episode did about 1,000 views less than the previous 4. Most of the time, every week, there's between 2,000 to 3,000 people come check out the Just Good Game news every Friday. I put the one out last week, which, was packaged the exact same way as always. It's got my face on it. There's a handful of really cool headlines in there. A bunch of different topics that go into the show itself, breaking news, tips and tricks, trivia, spotlighted games, overlooked games of the week, all that stuff. All that stuff is still in there. But last week's show didn't do as much as normal. It made me think, after having watched the Second Wind video and the Red Letter Media video, is this just a thing where, YouTube has all of these AI prompters, all of these AI crawlers scanning videos, trying to recommend them? And, one thing that the Second Wind video points out, which Red Letter Media reiterated, is that YouTube have turned on automatically for quite a lot of users a restricted mode. And you have to go into your profile on the top right-hand side and go down and manually turn off restricted mode. Because quite a lot of videos that YouTube's AI crawlers, that they have all these different AI systems that go through headlines, thumbnails, whatever's being said in a video to try and, look at what sort of age rating something should have, how available something should be to a mass audience. They seem to have then rolled out this restrictive mode, which it defaults to being on for thousands, if not millions of accounts, then means that certain videos just will not show up in either subscription feeds or in the feeds themselves as you're scrolling through YouTube. So it's worth saying that if you want to make sure you're getting access to everything, go uncheck the restricted mode thing. And in my case, or in any case of any channel that you want to manually keep up with, click the little notification bell and make sure that you're being notified that there are new things for you to see. YouTube has tried various different ways of making sure content gets put in front of people over the years, and the notification bell was a whole thing at the end of 2010s. It was all at the end of the 2010s. It was almost like them admitting that their standard subscribe to this channel approach wasn't working, and we needed another extra layer of please tell me when there's something new to make sure it goes through. We still have that. If you really want to be a fan of a channel, it's worth clicking the notification bell and making sure that you get like a custom email or whatever it is to remind you that there's a new video. So it's a weird state of affairs right now on YouTube, and you're forever making things and just hoping that they get found. And in my case, like I said, on the view side, you've got between 2,000 to 3,000 people coming back every week, apart from last week where it only really hit about 1,700 views, and that was from last Friday through till now. Things will keep ticking over. That's fine. The interesting element, though, and a little bit of inside baseball in terms of how YouTube works, the interesting element is that the video's watch time for last week's Just Good Game News is like, the retention time is like 20 minutes. The entire thing is about 50 minutes long, and you could argue that maybe that's a little bit too long for the average person to sit down and watch a video, or that's a little bit too long for the subscribers that are coming back who are maybe expecting something to be closer than about half an hour long, or whatever. My point is, though, that YouTube loves retention time. It's not the views, it's the retention time. That's the gold standard thing. If you can can make people sit down and enjoy your video for longer than a few seconds, you're above the vast majority of what's on YouTube. The average retention across all of YouTube is like a fraction of a second. Most people go on a video, go, I'm good, and then leave immediately. So if you can get your retention number into, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a couple of minutes, or in my case, 20 minutes on average, that is a big deal through YouTube's eyes, or at least it should be. It used to be. And they are forever changing the algorithm in terms of what it recognizes, how it distributes stuff, how on an AI level, on an algorithmic level, the different checks and balances that YouTube can do in the background to try and ascertain a level of quality and a review level of quality to a video to then distribute it even further. And a big part of that used to be, hopefully still is, watch time. It's not just about the thumbnail or the headline. It's making sure that you are actually enjoying the stuff that you're clicking into and you're staying to watch it. That should then mean that your video gets circulated. Very recently as well, I just got an email from YouTube saying, from probably an AI version of YouTube, saying that they are putting out automatic audio dubs on videos. So you should be able to then click different audible languages and you'll get an auto machine translated version of what I'm saying into into Japanese, into French, or whatever it is. And that is just an automatic thing that they're rolling out, going forward. Which is interesting because I have to imagine every time they roll out one of these massive changes that is just going to automatically detect speech and change it and everything else. I just don't believe that the overall system they've put together in terms of the amount of overlapping machine learning AI scripts is as squeaky clean as they would like it to be. Just because the amount of human bodies that are in YouTube, the size of the platform is not matching up with the amount of human bodies they have trying to take care of it. And a lot of really core processes are just offloaded to AI or machine learning or algorithmic replies in the automatic chat threads or whatever it is. And YouTube's been that way for a good few years. I've been on YouTube in terms of making content for it for about like 11 or 12 years now. There's been various different permutations of YouTube. And it's fascinating being part of this modern day one where, my very first video that I put out on this channel was explaining why I left What Culture, which you might even, if you're new, if this is your first video of mine that you're watching, you're like, where the hell do I know that guy from? What Culture Gaming. I was a full-time employee at What Culture for about 12 years. I headed up What Culture Gaming for the last sort of 5-6 years, and I went solo. I'm still doing freelance projects over there, but this is my main focus. And once I put that video out, it did about 70,000 views or whatever in the first sort of week or so, which makes sense. It's a hooky title, it's my face, it's an explanation for a topic that a lot of people are interested in. The What Culture channel was very, very big and is very big. But the follow-up to that led to a dedicated smaller audience coming back week to week, apart from, last week. So it does get you thinking, is it a distribution problem on the YouTube side? Is it because they've automatically put restrictive mode on for a lot of people? And even though my videos aren't flagged as having, lots of gore or anything like that, if there's any blood or whatever in my videos, I tend to put black and white filters on it. Or I stay away from the footage itself. But is that the problem? Is it this automatic restrictive mode thing that is being, applied to a lot of accounts? Or is it just a standard problem with everything that's happening at YouTube as they're trying to roll out this new automatic dub thing? It's just, YouTube is so massive. And, for a lot of the younger generations who were born into a world that already had YouTube, like teenagers coming up right now have not known a world without YouTube. Whereas I, and hopefully probably many of you, remember a time when there wasn't a YouTube, before 2006, 2007. And the platform has gotten so big now and is so instrumental to a lot of people's careers, mine included right now as I'm talking to you, that, there's a lot of importance on making sure people get access to the things that they have clicked on. And my whole point, like I said, you've got an initial reach of like 70,000 people, and then it reduces down to a few thousand people who come back every week. But I need to make sure as a creator that my stuff is getting put in front of you, and you shouldn't have to manually troll through everything every week to try and find my show if you've already said subscribe to this channel, or hopefully hit the notification bell, or whatever it is. So as everybody tries to figure this thing out, it made me think as well, is that why my most recent video hasn't done as well as the previous ones, or whatever the reason is? Because all the other metrics are up, the watch time's up, so the people checking it out are sitting down and enjoying the majority of the video. Is it something like that, or is it something else? And while I don't know, the whole thing with YouTube is that no one ever really draws any meaningful conclusions because the algorithm changes so much, it is worth just making this video because, like I said, the YouTube key term is going to get grabbed in the headline, and this might help boost a bit of visibility around my channel, around myself, around the stuff that I'm making, because ultimately, I'd like you to watch it. Bye.